In this video tutorial, we will work with the Bootstrap framework. Let's get started by reviewing the Downloads section of the framework. To get instruction on how to download a Bootstrap template, first go to the getbootstrap.com website and then click on this download button. This is not going to download anything. It's going to take you to another page where it will show all the different download options. This version of Bootstrap has several ways to install this framework, but for most simple projects, you'll end up either using a content delivery network, often shortened to CDN, or the pre-processed Bootstrap CSS and JavaScript files. The first way is to download the pre-compiled Bootstrap CSS and JavaScript files. It works really well if you need to install a copy of Bootstrap that will work even without an internet connection. If during development you don't know when you're going to be in a location that doesn't have reliable network connections, then it's better to download all the required asset files to a local folder and work off your local hard drive. Another way is to use CDNs. A CDN is a content delivery network, a place that hosts common libraries like Bootstrap. When someone visits a site that uses a CDN link, their browser will check its cache or memory to see if the visitor has been to a similar site that's also using the same link. If that's the case, then the browser will load the cache memory of the library. Since it's already stored in memory, that makes the new site load faster, since the browser will not have to request the file. A CDN requires that you work online, and for development purposes, that might not always be possible. In order to create a template, we can use either of these two options that I mentioned, the compiled CSS and JavaScript or the Bootstrap CDN. We'll use the CDN layout. I have opened my Visual Studio Code text editor. So to add your project folder, go to Open Folder. It's on my desktop, and the project folder is 09 Bootstrap, and select folder. I'm going to click on my extension icon on the left-hand side, and I'm going to type in Bootstrap. And I will choose the Bootstrap 4, Font Awesome 4, and Font Awesome 5 free and pro snippets. And I'm going to go ahead and select this, and I'm going to choose Install. Now I'm going to scroll down here to the details. And under Usage, in order to use Bootstrap snippets, we're going to need to open an HTML file and start typing B4 and a hyphen, followed by pressing Ctrl plus space. So I'm going to go to my folder on the left-hand side, and in my 09 Bootstrap folder, I'm going to go ahead and select this first icon, which is New File. And I'm going to name this index.html, and I'm going to select Enter. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type B4 minus, and then the Control key and the space bar. And I'm going to choose this first item that appears. So I'm going to select Control B to close my side panel there. So this automatically includes all the files that you need, including the Bootstrap min.css file, as well as the Bootstrap JavaScript, the jQuery Slim, and the Popper library. jQuery Slim is a smaller version of the jQuery framework. If you want to include the regular version of the jQuery framework instead of the Slim version, you can take a look at the jQuery website to download the regular version. The last thing that this page will load is the Bootstrap JavaScript file. If you want to use your own scripts, you would make sure that you add them after the Bootstrap min.js file right here. Let's change the title on line 4 to Bootstrap Demo. And between the body tags, let's go ahead and let's add a div container and put the h1 tag inside of it. So I'm going to type period container, and inside of that an h1 tag, and I'm just going to type tab. One of the reasons people use Bootstrap is to be able to lay out content that's responsive. The main way that you do that is with a class called Container. A container is a Bootstrap class that allows everything to fit to the default grid in Bootstrap. The grid itself is a responsive 12-column system. In addition, you may want to include an additional style sheet. It would usually go right underneath the bootstrap.min.css file. Make sure that you don't load it before the Bootstrap styles. You want these additional styles to overwrite the default Bootstrap styles. Now that we have the overall page requirements, let's go back to the Bootstrap website and explore the layout documents to start laying out our site's content and components. To begin, on the left-hand side, I'm going to choose the Layout menu item. Containers are the most basic layout element in Bootstrap and are required when using the default grid system. Containers are used to contain, pad, and sometimes center the content within them. While containers can be nested, most layouts do not require a nested container. To create a basic grid, the first thing you will need is a container that will hold the grid elements. Bootstrap comes with 3 different containers. Container, which sets a max width at each responsive breakpoint. Container fluid, which is width 100% at all breakpoints. Container hyphen, and then what the breakpoint that you want to use, which is a width of 100% until the specified breakpoint. The table below illustrates how each container's max width compares to the original container and container fluid across the breakpoint. The default container class is a responsive fixed width container, meaning its max width changes at each breakpoint. Use the container fluid for a full width container spanning the entire width of the viewport. Responsive containers are new in Bootstrap version 4.4. They allow you to specify a class that is 100% wide until the specified breakpoint is reached, after which we apply max widths for each of the higher breakpoints. For example, .container small is 100% wide to start until the small breakpoint is reached, where it will scale up with medium, large, and extra large. So if you scroll down, there's examples in here, and you can copy the code. So I'm going to copy this code that is below for the responsive one. So I'm going to select copy. I'm going to go back to my code editor, and I'm going to go to line 16, and I'm going to add in a return, and then I'm going to paste my copied code. I'm going to select line 17, and I'm going to get rid of that tab, and then I'm going to select line 17 through 18 and just tab that over. On line 14, I'm going to type in between my H1 tag, hello world, and put in an exclamation point. In the container divs with the breakpoints, I'm going to add in some lorem ipsum text. But before I do that, you'll want to go to the menu bar and go to the View link and then choose Toggle Word Wrap. I'm going to go to right before the closing div element on line 17, and I'm going to use multi-cursors before the closing div tags. So I'm going to hold down the Control key plus the Shift key plus the letter L. And notice how the word breakpoint is highlighted. Well, I don't want to have that highlighted, or it's going to delete that word. So I'm going to use my directional arrow keys. So I'm going to use the right directional arrow keys to eliminate the blue highlighting on breakpoint. Then I'm going to go ahead and add a space, and I'm going to type the word lorem 15. So I'm going to add in lorem ipsum text, and then I'm going to go ahead and select the tab key. Next, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go after the closing div tag, and I'm going to go out and read the documentation for Visual Studio Code, and I'm looking for multi-cursor and selection. I use the Control-Shift-L to select all occurrences of current selection. Now I want to select all occurrences that are at the end of a line. So I'm going to select Shift-Alt-I. Okay, so let's try that one. So I'm going to have to highlight each one of these lines, and then I'm going to hold down the Shift, the Alt, and the letter I, and it's going to give me my multi-cursor. I'm going to go ahead and add in a break tag, so BR and then tab. And then I'm going to go ahead and after that closing break tag, I'm just going to hit the Enter key. And there we go. It's going to give me some space. This gives me a nice break between each of these containers, and it's basically for my own readability purposes. So to get rid of the blinking cursors, you can just select the Escape key. And I'm going to do Control S for save. I'm going to go out to my browser. So down here at the bottom, because I have installed Live Server, I have this button that says Go Live. I'm going to go ahead and click this. Okay, this does not look correct because there should be some margin around the different breakpoint containers. I'm going to test my code and see if it is responsive, and it is not. I'm just going to maximize my screen. I'm going to go back to my Bootstrap documentation and see what CDN version they are using. So I'm going to go back up to where it says Getting Started. Let's see where that is at. And I'm going to look at CDN, and they're at 4.4.1. Let me go back and look at what version I'm using. And I'm using 4.3.1. So I'm just going to test this and see if maybe it's the Bootstrap version that I'm using. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Bootstrap, and I'm going to copy this head section right here. I'm going to copy from the head section, Control C. Go back into my code and copy from my head section up and Control V. And then I'm going to go and copy where it says optional JavaScript, and I'm going to copy that. So I'm going to go back here, and where it says optional JavaScript, I'm going to just copy that, Control C, go back into my text editor and replace all of that. And then I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go back out and test again. So I'm going to minimize that. Okay, now it's working correctly. So for some reason, the extension that we were using did not have the latest CDN version, but now it works correctly, as you can see. That was my solution to fix that problem. Now that we've seen how to use the provided code to test in a browser, let's add some rows and columns to our layout. I'm going to go back to my Bootstrap documentation, and I'm going to select Grid on the left-hand side. For many people, the grid system is the #1 reason to use Bootstrap. It makes creating responsive websites quick and easy and provides a structure to your designs. Bootstrap includes a responsive, mobile-first grid system that can have up to 12 columns and a design. The structure of a grid helps make the web page more predictable. Grids are created in Bootstrap using CSS classes on the HTML content elements. The first thing that you need is a container that will hold the grid elements. After you have the container element, you need to set up a row to create a horizontal group of columns. Next, you will create your columns of content. The class prefix.col-sm, each column will automatically be 25% wide from the small breakpoint and up. You will want to further read the documentation for this code example to modify. To create a 3-column layout for my index.html page, I'm going to select the copy link on the right-hand side, and I'm going to go back to Visual Studio Code, and between my body tag on line 15 all the way down to line 46, I'm just going to paste Control V. And here I have this block of code, and I can go ahead and just get rid of one of 3 columns and just type P lorem, and I'm going to say 25, and I'll do another one, P, the greater than sign, lorem 15, and then tab, and then P, the greater than sign, lorem, and 35, and tab. And I'm going to just save my work and go back out to my browser. And you can see how easy it was for me to create a 3-column layout using the sample code. And I did not have to worry about spacing of the columns or the gutter width between them either. Bootstrap took care of all of that for me. If I resize the viewport width, you can see that these columns are responsive. There are many more options for displaying your rows and columns. Let's go back and look at the documentation. On the right-hand side, you'll notice where it says Auto Layout Columns. All of this on the right-hand side pertains to this page. So we have additional information. So if you wanted to, so right now we're at equal widths. So if you wanted equal widths with multiple lines or setting one column width or variable width content, you can select any of these and it will jump you to that content. So if I select variable width content, so here would be the code that you could copy into your clipboard and try that out as well. If you wanted to do responsive classes, on the right-hand side, you have all these handy links that will jump you to that item in this web page. There are many more links on this page for you to explore that pertain to the grid layout system for rows and columns. So take your time and read through the documentation and try the example code that is provided on this page. One of the best ways to immerse yourself into learning Bootstrap is by selecting a theme and seeing how it was developed. You can then change out different components from a theme. Let's take a look at how we might begin this process. I'm at the website startbootstrap.com, and here are a list of themes, templates, and snippets. I'm going to scroll down to where it says templates, and I'm just going to click on this. There are many different template options to choose from on this page. A template can help you see the potential for your website while not having to come up with the design all by yourself. These templates include all of the files you need to build a custom website. This usually includes an HTML page for one or more pages of a website. And the one that I'm going to look at is this one that says Business Front Page, and it says free. I'm going to click on this. And I'm going to go ahead and download this. I'm going to select free download. And I'm going to save the file. Then I'm going to go out to my desktop. I'm going to minimize this. And it's this one right here. And I'm just going to right click and I'm just going to extract. And I'm just going to go ahead and double click. And here's all of the information that I would need for this theme. This folder is nested inside of here. So I'm going to take this folder and I'm just going to rename this starter theme. And then I'm just going to move this out of here so it's not nested inside. Then I'm going to go into Visual Studio Code. I'm going to find that and I'm going to open up that project file. So I'm going to go to Open Folder and I called it Starter Theme, and I'm going to select that folder. I'm going to open up the index.html file. The benefit to using the Starter Theme project folder is it comes with the necessary files to correctly run this web page. But because I know that this Bootstrap template has been around for a long time in Bootstrap, I am confident if I just copy from the navigation comment all the way to the end of the footer element, Control C, and go to my other project. And that was 09 Bootstrap. Go to my index file and just paste. And then I'll go out to my browser and let's just see if this has worked. And voila! Here is the pre-built template page that includes different Bootstrap components as well as placeholder images and lorem ipsum text. You can now begin to modify this page any way that you would like. Let's go back to our code editor. Let's start at the top of the page where there is a comment for navigation. I first suggest that you start with understanding the classes that were added to the nav element. There are 5 different classes added to the nav element. Highlight one of the classes and then copy, Control C, go back to the Bootstrap documentation. In the search field, go ahead and paste. Select the component that says navbar nav. Navigation in web pages is often found in the form of navigation bars or nav bars. And Bootstrap adds some specific features for nav bars. These work as headers for your web page. So if you scroll through here, Bootstrap nav bars start out collapsed in mobile views and can be toggled on and off. Include a place for your branded text or image. Can include buttons, button groups, drop-downs, and non-navigation links. Allow for forms, including search boxes. Can be aligned to the right or left and fixed at the top or the bottom of the screen, as well as positioned statically on the page, and have an inverted option for different colors. And it would be under navbar color schemes, so navbar dark. So if I select that, these are the three examples: navbar -dark, and the background is dark, and then navbar dark, and then it's BG, this is the primary color, and then here's one where they're giving it a custom style right here. So this is just one of the ways that you can come in here, and if you don't understand what these classes do, you can go ahead and highlight them. You can also highlight an element, so for instance you could highlight the nav, or you can also highlight down here where it says card. And I'll just highlight card, Control C. And I'll go back into here and I'll delete this and I'll paste. And card are under components. So there's different components. So I'll click cards. A card is a bordered box with some padding around its content. It includes options for headers, footers, content, colors, etc. A basic card is created with the .card class, and the content inside the card has a .card-body class. So in your document layout, this is the card area, and you can see this light gray border that goes all the way around. This is your card area. So you can actually change the components that are in your index HTML page with different components that are in Bootstrap. And there are quite a few components that are listed here. There is so much you can do with Bootstrap. You can build your own custom theme using the different components listed, or you can start with a pre-built template until you become more comfortable with the software. You can also use Sass to customize your Bootstrap installation. It can be very overwhelming, but keep in mind that thousands of other people just like you are getting started using this framework, and there are lots of online resources and places you can go to get help. I will list them in the comment section for this video tutorial.